Hello, welcome to another workflow devotion with Darrell and Arlene. I've got two guests on here with me that I am so excited to introduce. One is Pastor Dupree, he will tell us where he's currently pastoring, and the other, I'm going to save a little bit, my old teammate. That's on here. Antoine Carr. We played together at for the Atlanta Hawks through the preseason in 1984. No, 84, 85. That's right, 84, 85 season. So, Pastor Dupree, if you would introduce yourself and your church and where it's located, please.
Okay. Yes. Good morning. Good afternoon. This is T. Michael Dupree, and I'm founder pastor of the Spirit of Truth Family Ministries, and we're currently here in Savannah, Georgia, basically right down the road a piece from where you are, and I could say right down the street, but I have actually been in ministry for 45 years. Get my kickstart in the Church of God in Christ. I was licensed and ordained under Bishop John Husband of the Central Georgia jurisdiction. If you was in Atlanta at the time back in the 80s, everyone knew Bishop Husband.
Okay.
And the Greater Hensley Tabernacle Church of God in Christ that used to sit on Lucille. And but yes.
Well, we used to be in Atlanta. Neither one of us are in Atlanta at this time, Pastor. As a matter of fact, Antoine, where are you these days?
Right now,
what state are you in anyway?
I'm in Texas.
You're in Texas. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm in Florida. So, all right. Okay. So Antoine,
we're in two hot places.
Yes. So Antoine, I know that a lot of changes have come across from our days of playing with Atlanta together. Kind of give us a little bit of a synopsis for those that don't know. Most of them know you. But for those that don't know, you were there at Atlanta for a while. You moved from there, and what happened? You went somewhere else.
Well,
what did you?
I played for Atlanta for about 5 years. They didn't let me go, and I went to Sacramento. I was traded out to Sacramento.
Okay.
Played with Sacramento a couple of years, and they decided they were going to trade me for a guy named Dwayne Census. And I ended up coming to San Antonio at that time. And then I played obviously in San Antonio for a while, almost 5 years. And then we didn't quite see eye to eye on a few things. So I talked to my buddy Carl Malone. He, of course, talked to my mother. And his mother talked to my mom. And next thing you know, I was signing a contract in Utah.
Okay. But Utah was closer to home for you then, right?
Well,
sort of, closer to where you went to college anyway.
Well, I'm in Wichita. I was, doing my thing. So that's in the middle of the country. So you put me anywhere, I'm kind of close.
Okay.
No matter what.
Well, Antoine and I played through the preseason of 1984-85, and I got hurt and eventually got released also. Ended up going to the CBA, and then from there played in Europe and all. So we had a great time while we were there. So
Absolutely.
today we're going to be continuing this discussion about why do people hate? I mean, why do people hate? What's the reason for it? And what can we do about it? So I'm going to start with you, Antoine. What's your scenario of why people hate, or at least your what do you
my thought usually is a little bit of jealousy. You know,
Jealousy. Okay.
they're looking at something that you're doing or something that you're trying to attempt to do, and they feel like, well, I should have had the chance to do that, or I should have did that, and they tend to look at it like that, and people just start getting that, what I call the haters mode in. They,
Okay.
oh, I can't believe they gave him a chance and then give me a chance. When if they had just looked at it and said, well, you know what? Let me go in there and put in a different type of effort. See if that changes anything. It may have been your effort the reason they didn't choose you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have, to me, you always have to look at that on your own side of things. You
Okay.
know, now,
Okay.
if they're just, how do I, evil people, I guess you can say, then there's nothing you're going to be able to do about that. You're not going to be able to change the fact that they dislike you. You're not going to be able to change the fact that they want to see worse for you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my thing. I always look at everything the same way that my mom used to tell me. And she would always say, look, don't hate, go out there and change it.
Okay. Okay.
What way can you yourself change this versus, oh, I can't believe he made the team and I didn't make it, and this just isn't right.
Okay. Okay.
You know, you go
And
out
that
there
that
and
ends up
put in.
that ends up coming up a lot when we start talking about referees. We start feeling a certain way when we talk about the referees and their calls. So, um, but that's still that open question. Why do people hate? You brought up some really good points, Pastor. What did you say, Pastor Dupree?
I actually have been thinking about that for a minute because actually it's actually a very good question, and then when I look at it and to think about all down through the years and what we have, what we and people have went through, what in society, you know, black and white and Hispanic, whatever, and what we have been going through in society, and
Mm-hmm.
and especially of coming out of the Jim Crow era, the civil rights movement, and all that, and um, people that saying that, and people are actually espousing a hate for us because of the color of our skin. They don't know us, but yet they said they don't like us, they hate us, or something like, or whatever case may be. And so I'm looking at it, well, maybe a lot of time, what it is, maybe uh, people don't really need a specific reason to hate. They just hate because maybe because of that first sin that was committed in the Garden of Eden, which
Okay.
was, of course, that sin of disobedience. And that sin of disobedience, it 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 covers pretty much every single thing that we do that is against God.
Okay. Okay.
It got one one with disobedient, we're allowed to do anything else. If we say that we hate, then you are you are right there kin to someone that will actually pick up a gun and blow somebody's brains out.
Okay, okay. So I like this because we're actually coming from why do people hate from two different perspectives. Antoine was literally talking about either making a team or not making a team, being looked over or being tossed aside, where you're talking more specifically about someone not liking you because of your color, because of the color of your skin or something like that. And the reality of that is when we start talking about the color of skin, Black people hate too. It's not just one particular ethnic group that hates. It's across the board.
Right.
It doesn't matter what culture you come from. There's always someone that you dislike for some unknown reason. And it then leaves that same question open of why? When it's so much easier to not hate, why do people hate? Why do we spend that time um, uh, um, disliking someone when in reality, most of the time, all we have to do is change our own selves. What do you say, Antoine?
Well, that was part of the reason I was saying earlier is that sometimes you get over the fact that you're not looking at yourself. You're
Okay.
saying your whole focus. That's why I said jealousy somewhat, because your whole focus is on that other person instead of saying, what can I do? And that's what my mom, like I said, always said is, how are you going to change it?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
like we're looking at this now. How are we going to change this white black thing? You know, this Black Lives Matter thing. How do we control it? How do we take care of it and make it a positive instead of it becoming a negative?
Okay.
So
Okay.
for me, it'd be real easy. We have to go back and look at what happened over history. After we see that, we see the Tulsas, the Philadelphias, all that. We can look at them and go, well, I hate them because they destroyed this.
Mm-hmm.
Or we can look at the other side and say, well, you know what? It showed that we were able to govern. It showed we were able to build and make a wall, a Black Wall Street, for lack of a better word. We were able to do those things.
Right.
So that's my thing is, let's not keep looking at the negatives. Let's not pay attention as much to this Donald Trump thing that's going around now. Let's not worry about him. Let's worry about how we can better ourselves. What can we do? Can we go back into our communities and start teaching them different things? Teach the kids robotics instead of just teaching them small things, teaching them new mathematics, teaching them the STEM system, all those different little things so we can enhance what we're trying to do. If we don't better ourselves, how can we try to look at someone else and try to make them better?
Right.
And that's kind of my thought.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I usually try to stay away from is the political atmosphere. You did bring up our current president, Donald Trump. And, different people have different views on the approaches that are currently being made by him. I am 100% behind Black Lives Matter. 110% behind Black Lives Matter. It's so important that we realize that life is more than just us, and that we need to be able to make a world where there are more people getting involved in this world than just us. Black lives, white lives, all lives matter.
Oh, definitely.
And how we handle situations that come our way will determine what we do with the things that come to us. So again, there's some exciting things that are going on politically right now. We're in that political mode, but at the same time, when we start thinking about the word, why do people hate? It's not just Republicans hating Democrats or Democrats hating the Republicans or independents hating both. I mean, it was set up so that we could possibly be able to have a yin and a yang to come up with some type of something in the middle. But all of a sudden now our atmosphere has turned into this hateful atmosphere, and leaving us with that same question, Pastor, why do people hate?
And I think it might be just because when people see you doing something and they don't really agree with or they don't understand it. They hated Christ when Christ went through, and they actually wanted to really right away stone him, kill him just because he healed the man on the Sabbath day.
Okay.
They were the sinner. They knew nothing about him, but because they said that, well, he disobeyed the law, and because he did good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so a lot of time people, they hate things, or they dislike things that they don't understand, and again, they don't have any rhyme or reason of why they hate it. If you were to sit and ask someone and to explain to you in detail why they hate this person or that person, or why they hate this thing or that thing, they would not be able to do that. Unlike we, for the most part, we may be, if someone actually asks you why, how come you do not eat children? How come you say you don't like chitlins, or hate chitlins? And you can say, well, I hate chitlins because of the way they smell. I can't, in other words, I can't get past the smell to get it to my mouth, or either I can't get past my intellect of me knowing what it is to get it into my system. And so we can explain that one. But when somebody asks you to explain how come or why do you hate that man over there that you don't know, or that woman that you don't know, we can't put our finger on. We just say, well, I don't. It's just something. What the term? It's just something about them. That's all they say. It's just something about them.
Okay, and that goes on in different parts of our society, and now we find a lot of that same hate or sort of hatred even coming up into the church, where someone walks into church, and because of what they have on, or because they're not dressed in a way that you're used to, then you have all these types of looks that are coming on because they're not conforming to what you're used to. So they still hate. And Antoine, now you're in construction like I am, and you've done a lot of traveling throughout the world, and seen a lot. And for me, when I went outside of the United States, I think that this is a great country. I would not want to live anywhere else. But when I went outside of the United States, especially to Holland, it seemed as though color barriers were completely taken down when I went outside of the United States. What about you? What did you experience?
Well, in some areas, you saw that race really didn't play a matter. Now, there's a few places, Germany, places like that I went to, that I did see a little hatred, but I assume that is part of society that we have everywhere.
Okay.
I was able to see certain aspects of it, the white supremacy and that type of stuff. And I understand the thought pattern behind it, because you want to take care of your own. But at the same time, let's also remember we're all the human race.
That's right.
We're just not the white race or black race or the Mexican race. We are a human race.
That's right.
And unless we start getting our stuff together, then far as humans go, we may not be around very long.
Okay.
Okay. We may be there spiritually, but our physical manifestation won't be there anymore.
Okay. All right.
If we don't start giving to God the way we should. And that's the way I look at it, is we tend to take everything and say, well, what about me?
Right.
Even on the religious side of things, well, what about me? Well, why can't he bless me with this Mercedes? Why can't he bless me with this? And like I said again with Mama Carr, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and say, woe is me, or are you going to get into church and pray? Are you going to go in your little cubby hole and pray to God? what are you going to do besides sit there and say, woe is me? And that's kind of my thing with everything now, is we got to get past this woe is me. We have to get to the point where, you know what, we're going to go in here, we're going to fight, we're going to make something happen. And that's the key. And, you know, that's why when I brought up Donald Trump, I really wasn't bringing him up because of the politics.
Okay.
I was bringing it up because people are looking at him, and before he opens his mouth completely, they're already, okay, I can't stand this guy, I hate him.
Right.
Well, let's try to understand where he's coming from first. Let's try to do, as the pastor said, let's find out about that man, about that person, before we decide we're going to just lock in and say, well, I hate him, I dislike him. I'm not going to pray for this person.
That's right.
You know, my thing is hey, you pray for everybody and you look out for everybody. And if God sees fit to do some great things for you, like he did for us, he gave us the opportunity to get out there, play basketball. And at the same time, he gave us a chance to go out there and talk to other young men and young women and explain some of the things that we went through. Because our life wasn't easy until we got to that point in the NBA. And then once we got to the NBA, guess what? You thought it was over, but now it starts a whole different type of cycle.
Pastor, Antoine and I, here, the very first practice session that we had, I think I went up and down the court maybe 4 or 5 times, and Antoine was in front of me. I'm at the top of the free throw line, and I try to give him a little shake, and I go off to the left, which is, I'm a lefty. So I power off to the left, and he gets his foot over there before mine, and I step on his foot. I twist my ankle, tear a ligament, and now I go straight to having to be on the injury list of my very first day there with the Hawks. So one would think that he and I would not have the relationship that we have right now. But the truth of the matter is, when I got married the first time, Antoine was my best man at my marriage during my wedding. And this was after all of this. I had already been released from the Hawks. I had already gone through all of that. And we have maintained this relationship. So, you know, hatred is something that's built up in you because you're not understanding the other person, just as Antoine brought up. And I'm assuming, Pastor, that this same type of issue happens in the church all the time.
It does. It does. It's happened in the church all more than we can count, and not just in one certain church, in each and every denomination that we can think of. And we know that a lot of denominations want to claim better than the other, because in a lot of holding churches, they want to claim that if you're not in them, if you're not with them, then you don't have it yet.
Right.
You don't have it yet. And so we got so we got denominations hating denominations.
And they don't, you know, in the reality of it, our Bible, our Bible, the Holy Bible, tells us that if you believe in your heart and you speak it out with your mouth, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, then ye shall be saved. That's what the Bible tells us. And if you believe the Bible for what it is, then you have to believe that Jesus did ask the question, or he was asked a question, say, what's the greatest the commandment? And he said to love God. And the second was the same, to love your neighbor as yourself. So when you start to hate, then you're getting away from just what God talked about, Jesus Christ talked about. You're getting away from that when you start to hate. Now, I'm one to believe that there are not different levels to hate. Hate is just hate.
Right.
You know, I don't like Brussels sprouts. That does not mean I won't eat them. I just don't like them. But you'll hear people say, I hate Brussels sprouts. Well, do you really hate it? What did the Brussels sprout do to you? You know? So the next question before we go individually, and I'm gonna start with you, Pastor. If you were the one that had to change the world from being hateful to being loving, what would you do? What would the first thing that you would do to make that change or try to make that change?
Wow. One of the first thing I probably would do is try to put an end to some of these weapons that people are using to actually do violence. Be it though, and we know a few years ago they were talking about weapons of mass destruction over in Iraq, which they never found, but we have a lot of those things right here. You know, the AK-47s and all those automatic weapons. By that point, you got to kind of put a lock on those.
Okay.
You got to put a lock on those, and that is one of the first things that we need to happen.
So that's what you would do.
Yes.
Antoine, if you were given that challenge to eradicate hate, what would one of the first things you would do to eradicate hate? What would you do?
Well, first, my first thought would be ban war.
Okay.
Yeah, I know people are like, what? Ban war? Yeah, well, if you ban war, there will be no religious fights because you can't allow war. There won't be any fights over property, land, any of that. Okay. We will be back to what I think God originally planned for us, which was the Garden of Eden, which is for us to all share.
Okay.
For all of us to take a little and give a little.
Okay. So share and share alike.
Exactly. So as you were saying, that we tend not to look at it that way, the yin and the yang. Well, that's what it is. And we have to start doing that. If we don't, we're going to get in this cycle where everybody wants money.
Okay.
Or something similar to that, or fame, those type of things. Those things really don't matter when you come down to it. I mean, it's nice to have the money so you can pay for things and all that. But if we had this set with no war, we wouldn't have to have money because we would be trading. We would be giving love back and forth that way instead of just always, like I say, I look at it, we're constantly, well, I need to go get this job over here. I got to go do this. I can't wait. Well, you need to take care of this. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can do it. Okay. And that's my thing with the politics now. We've gotten to the part so much to where it's the Republicans' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. It's this. Well, get past that. Maybe it's all of our fault. And maybe if we turned around and said, look, we're going to go out, we're going to give love and see what love brings us back.
Okay.
Because name anything that you can think of that would stop war, would stop famine, would stop all of this. The only thing you can find out there is God's true love. Okay. If you can understand that, then you understand the society where it needs to go.
Okay. Okay. I like that. Well, you guys have brought up some excellent points. And that question of why do people hate will linger out there. My hope is, and the reason why I believe that God gave me this question to ask, is that each and every one of us will individually start thinking about ourselves individually. Why do I hate? Or what is it that I hate? And how do I make that change? And that change starting with me, and once we can become the change that we're looking for, then maybe with that, we can try to eradicate hate, which almost seems like an impossibility. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here on Workflow Devotion with Darrell and Arlene. Pastor, I'm going to ask you one more time to introduce your church and its location, and then we'll go to Antoine.
The Spirit of Truth Family Ministries of Savannah, Georgia. Right now, we are a church without walls, and we normally on Facebook Live every Sunday at 12 noon. And catch me and with a message that the Lord does give me.
Okay. All right, Pastor. And Antoine, my old teammate, buddy, friend.
Yes, sir.
Man, go ahead on. I mean, your list of accomplishments are so long, and I take my hat off to you for all the hard work that you've done over the years, and for what God has done in your life. So you go without needing too much as far as someone announcing who you are. Outside of the beard that I'm seeing now, you seem to be holding up pretty good.
Well, I try to stay in shape, and being out there in that construction world, obviously,
Yes.
we don't get very much time to eat all the time, so we're not gonna get 300-400 pounds, but we're gonna constantly be working. So, with Big Dog LLC, we do residential and commercial.
Okay.
We go all over the country, and I really try to do most of mine by word of mouth, because I rather come in, do a great job, and have guys turn around and say, who my builder was. Like my buddy Hassel Brown down there in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a singing beer man back in the day. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes, I do.
He called me up and asked me if I would come up and help redo his home, and I was able, with God's help, to go down there and do a great job and enjoy my time with him and his wife. And those are the type of things I love doing, is being able to get out there and just kind of touch people's lives a little bit. And we'll be doing basketball camps and all that as soon as we can get this COVID thing under control.
Amen. Praise God.
It's a big thing that's out there, but I'm a firm believer that nothing happens without God being behind it. And even with this pandemic, there's a time here now for us all to spend some time individually with God, and to find out that I like what you said, Pastor, about you were at the church without walls. Well, you know what? The church has never had walls. We only go to the building to give God praise as a unit, but we are the church. God, Jesus Christ being inside of us, created us as church. And when we come together, he says, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I will be in the midst. And church is just gotten started. So again, I want to thank both of you for being here. This has been another Workflow Devotion with Darrell and Arlene. We want to thank both our guests for being on here. And we ask that you'll continue to think about that question and ask the question of yourself: why do I hate? And you can put that under whatever you want. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
All right, appreciate it. Make sure everybody out there, you pray for your neighbors, brothers.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
For each one.
That's right. That's right.